Hi folks, so today we're going to look at the Spread Knowledge Analytics page, which is also referred to up at the top here as the game preview. So you can come here to this link and basically select from a list of different games. In this case, we have our NBA filter on, right? So we can see that we have NBA selected here. So we're only looking at NBA games here, but you can adjust that to look at any sport. So if we want to take a look, for example, let's take a look at ESPN's featured game tonight, which is Houston at Minnesota. So if we bring up that game's preview, we can see here is kind of a summary level view of the pick card, where you might see kind of a similar view on the Make Picks page. You can make picks here as well. So if I click on Forced Houston minus 4.5, you can see that added the pick to the ticket here. So you can make picks on most of the pages that we have available to you. But just scrolling downward, you can see here kind of these are the last results for that team given a different set of scenarios as examples, right? So this is all straight up data, money line data. So this is not factoring in the spread at all, and it's just looking at kind of a performance of that team historically in the last 10 games in these different types of scenarios. Um, the next section is our trends analysis, which is our kind of our most analytical view, where we provide kind of some summary level detail at the top here, including past results, the actual net score, which is the performance over the last 5 games. You can see that by visiting our key here, right? So we have a key at the top where you can see what kind of all the icons mean and what the net score relates to, which is the last 5 games. And then this is the value icon or the trend icon that shows you the relative profitability looking back historically if you made this pick. So just kind of quickly looking at these analytics, you can see that the Minnesota over is the highest rated pick at 32%, looking back historically. So if you wanted to kind of analyze that a little more closely, you could take a look at the last game that Minnesota played and kind of follow it back, uh, hovering over the different circles there in the graph to kind of show each of the past games performance. The two different lines that we have, one is for margin or kind of profitability, and the second, the light blue, is the net score, often referred to as the power net, which kind of shows you the performance of some type of team or over under against the actual point spread. So that's what you'll see, that these kind of two lines kind of follow each other a little bit. That's because there's a correlation there, right, between the performance of like an over under against the point spread and whether or not that over under was profitable for that day, right? So there's a positive correlation there. That's why you kind of tend to see the lines following one another, which is a good thing. The next section are the trend scores. This is kind of a view of what you see here with these percentages, right? The kind of the estimated historical value, so to speak. And it gives you kind of a view of each one of these in the agreeing score, right? The agreeing scores, all the trend historical data that builds up to produce that 32% score. And obviously the conflicting score would be the Minnesota home total under, right? So that would be the conflicting score. And we do different things with those in the analytics, and you'll see that as you get more and more into kind of the game preview and the data that we provide. The top trends angle shows kind of a very low level of detail in terms of uh, trend analysis, right? So each of what you saw up here, which are these aggregate numbers, in this case 32%, right? This aggregate is basically summing up the detail that you see in these trend angles, which we sometimes refer to as data points, right? So basically the data points roll up into these trend scores, and that's how we calculate those. You can see that in more detail if you go to the profitable picks page, which is right here, and then you can kind of drill into a trend and see the detail underlying that trend. Here in kind of the last section that you have here, where you can kind of toggle between against the spread, win, over, under, you can see the line movement over time. This is particularly useful for football games, soccer games that are where the lines are kind of posted way in advance, so they can kind of change over time. If the line is posted, 12 to 24 hours before the game start time, there's kind of little value in the data there, but we still track that, and we allow you to kind of see the line movements and kind of how they're trending. The section here represents how these two teams have done historically in the past against all opponents against the spread. And this is the head-to-head comparison. So you can see how Houston has performed head-to-head against Minnesota, over the last 20 or 30 games, or however much historical data we have. If you wanted to see kind of a different view, you can click the over-under, right? And then you'll see all these widgets kind of change for the over-under. The same thing applies, and here you can see head-to-head how the over-under has performed. You can see why the over trend scores are so popular or high, because you can see out of the last 15 games or so, the under has only won maybe 4 times. So the over is winning on a 75% clip. That's going to be a popular or profitable pick for sure following that trend. So that's a good overview of how the preview looks. Hope you enjoyed it, and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.